Olá, alegria de estar aqui com você e de compartilhar as palestras que foram dadas para o lançamento do livro A Matemática da Mente Cósmica, de autoria de Gordon Plummer. Esse livro está disponível pela editora Teosófica, foi publicado pelo projeto Pioneiros, houve uma participação muito intensa de várias pessoas, 25 pessoas de várias partes do mundo, né? Tivemos a honra de receber para este lançamento, mas agora nós resolvemos priorizar as duas palestras de Henk Bezemer e Joop Smits, da Holanda. Houve também a participação do Jairo Cavalcante, né, que foi o tradutor do livro, eu fiz a revisão, mas nós vamos então mostrar agora essas duas palestras para que você tenha uma ideia do que seja esta obra muito importante, a Matemática da Mente Cósmica.
Hello everybody, we are glad and grateful for the opportunity to contribute to this presentation of the Portuguese translation of the extraordinary book The Mathematics of the Cosmic Mind, written by Gordon Plummer. In this book, Gordon Plummer not only explains some important theosophical teachings, but he also shows how to recognize the cosmic relationships in the golden ratio and the 5 Platonic solids. This book is, in our view, of great value to all people who are interested in the relation between theosophy and mathematics. That's why we consider this translation into Portuguese as a valuable step in the worldwide dissemination of theosophy. Our lecture will consist of 2 parts. First, we will tell you some interesting facts about the author and his background, and from which persons Gordon Plummer got his knowledge and inspiration. That first part will be presented by me, Henk Bezemer. I will then give the floor to Joop Smits, who will give you a nice taste of the very interesting subject of this book. Joop will go into questions such as what is philosophical mathematics and how do we recognize the cosmic relationships in all processes in nature. All this, of course, in the light of universal wisdom, Theosophia. Well, there are many interesting things to say about Gordon Plummer's life. Gordon Plummer was born in 1904 in Point Loma, California, which were the headquarters at that time of the Point Loma Theosophical Society. In this headquarters, many people, not only adults but also children, were trained in the practical living of theosophy. Living at Point Loma meant, in fact, an acceleration of your spiritual growth, at least if you were ready for it. And the specific qualities of people like Gordon Plummer were given every chance to be brought out to their full potential. Gordon's father, Fred Gordon Plummer, was a geographer and had a responsible job in the United States Forestry Service. He gave a powerful impulse to United States nature conservation by creating nature reserves. Little Gordon was of weak health, but he also had a strong will and great curiosity. His interest in theosophy was triggered by his mother, who was already reading to him from Blavatsky's The Secret Doctrine when he was only about 10 years old. About the stars, the planets, and the hierarchies of higher beings, for example. Gordon went through the Raja Yoga school set up by Catherine Tingley at Point Loma, from small child to Theosophical University. Due to his poor health, he could not participate in many of the outdoor activities. The extra time he had during a day, he enthusiastically devoted to mathematics and astronomy. He became, when grown up, a teacher in these subjects himself. He taught his pupils in a way that was very appealing to young people. In later life, Gordon Plummer gave numerous lectures in many different countries. He has also been a teacher in Californian schools and at many of their school camps. He used not only his mathematical and theosophical knowledge, but he used also his skills with magic tricks, by sleights of hands, and by letting people ponder about his riddles. Over the years, he also visited many theosophical centers worldwide to give his presentations. I remember very well his 2 lectures, which he gave at our headquarters in The Hague, Netherlands, in 1989. He was already 85 by then, but you didn't notice that at all. And almost nobody realized that Gordon Plummer always had to reckon with a physical handicap that he was born with. He could see nothing at all through one eye and only a little bit through his other eye. But that never withheld him. And he continued spreading theosophy in his unique way into old age. Gordon died in 1999 at the age of 95. We already mentioned the headquarters of the Theosophical Society Point Loma, where Gordon was born. Point Loma is a peninsula near San Diego, California. There, Catherine Tingley, who had been the leader of our Theosophical organization since 1896, founded a complete community. She and her successor, Gottfried de Perucker, managed to make this headquarters a very powerful center for the study and dissemination of the original theosophy, and that is, of the teachings of H.P. Blavatsky and the Masters. The center's goal was always to serve all humanity. So, one was constantly focused on the outside worlds. For example, Catherine Tingley and Gottfried de Perucker organized very intensive worldwide peace missions in the years leading up to the First and Second World Wars. They also did much for prisoners, and they fought for the abolition of the death penalty. Some 500 to 600 people lived at the headquarters, half of them children. Gordon Plummer went, as said, through all phases of the Raja Yoga education designed by Catherine Tingley. What did this Raja Yoga method entail? Its basic principle was that you treat children and young people as reincarnating human beings, with their own baggage of wisdom and skills that they had brought with them from their past lives. Therefore, the education was very broad. It was really all round, because the goal was to bring out all the dormant qualities of children in a harmonious and compassionate way. So, not only their spiritual and intellectual qualities, not only their ability to cooperate helpfully in a group, but also a wide range of outer skills and physical training. The girls participated in the sports just as much as the boys, which was quite progressive in those days. Never was there any competition. No grades were given, and there was no punishment or outer reward given. Just as is done now at Vic Hao Chin's Golden Link College in the Philippines. Each student was seen as a unique individual who had to be guided along his or her own path of development. Above all, the teachers encouraged the students to think independently, to investigate the things for themselves. So, the emphasis was not on learning things by heart, but on investigation. Not only on learning from books, but also largely on learning in practice. For instance, by helping to grow vegetables, by singing in the choir, playing in the orchestras and plays, and observing the stars outside, as you see here done. And so we can talk on. The teachers of the Raja Yoga school rarely, if ever, taught technical theosophy. So they never held lectures on reincarnation or evolution. No, what they did was they tried to let their own theosophical inspiration shine through everything they did. Now, who were Gordon Plummer's greatest sources of inspiration? They were, as he himself said, primarily Catherine Tingley, Gottfried de Bruycker, and thirdly, Professor Fred Dick. And here we have a photo of Professor Dick. It was Professor Dick, who was his teacher in astronomy and mathematics, who greatly encouraged Gordon to delve into these subjects. As a small boy, Gordon once saw Professor Dick walking across the grounds, holding an icosahedron under his arm. And that fascinated Gordon immensely. He eventually followed in Dick's footsteps, becoming an astronomy and mathematics teacher himself. And also, through the knowledge he received from Gottfried de Bruycker, Gordon Plummer developed into a unique theosophical thinker and expert of mathematical symbolism. The Mathematics of the Cosmic Mind, this book, is one of his most important books. Now, after this brief sketch of Gordon Plummer and his unusual background, I would like to give the floor to Joop Smits for the second part of our presentation.
Thank you, Henk. In his approach to unveiling nature, Gordon Plummer combines the vision from theosophy with that of science, and especially that of mathematics. As already mentioned by Henk, mathematics is one of the keys to a growing realization of the spiritual oneness of all life and the cosmic laws that flow from that oneness. Gordon Plummer emphasizes that one should always start from the universal ideas and laws described in theosophy, and from there explore how they can be recognized in our surrounding physical nature and not the other way around. In his book, he establishes a relationship between mathematics and the structure and development of the living cosmos. The title of the book already points out that it assumes a consciousness at cosmic level which manifests and expresses itself according to mathematical patterns. He refers to this consciousness behind the manifest universe as the cosmic mind. His book is a theosophical exploration of the nature of things, using mathematics as a tool. Since the book is about theosophy and mathematics, without lengthy introductory explanation, it is of some importance to have or gain beforehand some basic knowledge of both subjects before studying the book. Please also bear in mind that most of the images I will show you in this presentation are not exactly the same as the ones in Gordon Plummer's book published in 1960. Now, the word mathematics is derived from the Greek word mathema, meaning science, knowledge, or learning. The book is not about practical mathematics, that is, as most people know it, mathematics as a formal science that studies patterns and structures which you can use to solve, for instance, engineering problems. No, it is about philosophical mathematics. Philosophical mathematics, like theosophy, is based on certain propositions and axioms. That mathematics gives a description of numbers and figures that living beings in the cosmos use as ideal ground patterns in every manifestation, although those ground patterns can never be expressed perfectly. See, for instance, the construction of a beehive here on the screen, based on hexagons, which are, however, not quite perfect. Philosophical mathematics represents the ground patterns of how the universe unfolds from inside to outside, at whatever scale level of the cosmos, as above, so below. And those ground patterns can in fact, besides describing them in words, be made clear by using mathematical symbols such as geometric shapes, numbers, and number ratios. These ground patterns relate to the origin, structure, processes, and destiny of life, and also to man's place in it. It refers to self-knowledge. We will now explore just a few examples of mathematical ground patterns which can easily be recognized in manifest nature. Ancient philosophers, such as the Pythagoreans, had a clear idea about the coming into being of the cosmos based on the principle of harmony. Harmony, in mathematical language, was understood as an even and numerical bridging of opposites, like for instance spirit and matter. This even bridging can easily be seen in nature. For instance, the difference between the 7 colors of the rainbow is based on fixed frequency steps in radiation. And the difference between the 7 tones of an octave is based on fixed frequency steps in sound. In the manifest world, the shapes of bodies like ours are determined and limited by numbers and especially by numerical ratios. This is in itself quite logical. Think, for instance, of a marathon runner. Somewhere there is an optimal ratio between the total body mass and the muscle mass of the runner, so numerical ratios are particularly interesting in view of expressing harmony in nature. The golden ratio, also known as the golden section or golden mean, is an example of such an harmonic ratio. You see here a picture of a line. The golden ratio, what is it exactly? Let me try to explain it briefly. If you divide a line according to the golden ratio in two parts, A and B, then the longer section A divided by B, the shorter section, is equal to the total length of the line A plus B divided by A. This ratio is called phi. It is a number with an infinite number of decimal digits. Phi is approximately 1.618. The golden ratio can be found everywhere in nature. Examples in the pictures are a starfish and starfruit, showing the golden ratio. In the next picture, various parts of man's body, as shown by painters such as Dürer and Leonardo da Vinci. You see it also in the shape of a galaxy, or the nautilus shell and the chameleon's tail. I always find the growth of a tree an interesting example. A tree wants that every leaf can capture the rays of the sun for the sake of an optimal photosynthesis. A tree does that by increasing the number of branches and twigs in an ordered way during each annual growth cycle. For certain types of trees, like for instance the ash tree, you can easily see in the first years, by counting, that the number of branches and twigs follows the mathematical pattern of the so-called Fibonacci series of numbers. This means that every number of the series is formed by adding the two previous ones. It starts with 0, then 1, 1 plus 0 is 1, then 1 plus 2 is 3, 3 plus 2 is 5, 5 plus 3 is 8, and so on. This is how the number of branches and twigs increase annually. After a number of additions, the ratio of two subsequent numbers in the Fibonacci series approaches the golden ratio. So, by counting the branches and twigs, you can guess how old the tree is. The golden ratio is also used in architecture as harmonic ratio. See, for instance, the plan of a Greek temple and the United Nations building in New York. A next example of ground patterns is geometric shapes, especially the regular polyhedrons, most often called the Platonic solids, because Plato mentioned them in his dialogues. Now, what are they? The word polyhedron means many faces. To qualify it as a regular polyhedron, the geometrical solid must have an even number of faces. All the faces must be regular polygons, which means that all of its sides and angles are equal. Furthermore, the faces must all have the same shape and size. Altogether, this will give the figure a perfect symmetry. There are only 5 of these regular polyhedrons: the tetrahedron, octahedron, cube or hexahedron, dodecahedron, and icosahedron. In this slide you see the number of faces, vertices, and edges of each of the Platonic solids. The unity of the 5 Platonic solids expresses itself in the intimate relations and cohesion between the Platonic solids as they are intertwined. They flow from each other in an infinite series from small to large. This is strongly reminiscent of the emanation process in Theosophy, how the manifested worlds come into being from within to without. In nature, the Platonic solids can easily be recognized, such as in the structure of atoms. You see here molecules with a tetrahedron structure. And I remember well from my chemistry classes at high school how my teacher already showed that they have this tetrahedron structure. Here you see examples of the minerals of pyrite with the structure of the cube, dodecahedron, or icosahedron. But they also have correspondences or symbols at the level of man, the solar system, and the universe. Let's first have a look at the correspondence with man. The cube may be taken to represent fully manifested man within the solar system. In the secret doctrine, we can read that the figure of the cube unfolded in connection with the circle becomes a cross proper or tau form, and the attachment of the circle to the cross results in the Egyptian ancested cross, the symbol of man, generation, and life. In the Egyptian Book of the Dead, we can see the Egyptian cross with 2 arms stretching out to a sun. This symbolizes man opening himself up for the rays of his inner spiritual sun. And there is even more symbolism to the cube, such as the total sum of all angles is 6 times 360 is 2160 degrees. This number corresponds to the evolutionary period of mankind in years during a so-called messianic cycle, and also to the shift of the vernal equinox point with 1 sign of the zodiac. Then the correspondence with the solar system. In Theosophy, the solar system is regarded as a great living organism. The Pythagoreans already spoke of the harmony of the spheres. Astronomers such as Johannes Kepler intuitively sought a logical structure of the whole solar system already centuries ago. You see here the sketch made by Kepler. If we assume round figures for the cycle times of the planets around the Sun, then the next table shows that Kepler was not so far off. If we compare the ratios of the cycle times of the various planets, we can recognize, amongst others, that they correspond to the number of phases of specific Platonic solids, as you can see in the right-hand side of the table. Finally, the correspondence with the cosmos. In his dialogues, the Timaeus, in the 4th century BC, Plato already stated that the universe is built on the geometrical figure of the dodecahedron. In 2003, scientists suggested that the universe could indeed be shaped like the dodecahedron. This was the last example. To conclude, Gordon Plummer's book shows the relationship between mathematics and theosophy. The structure and development of all being in the cosmos is based on one universal set of ground patterns. There is unity in diversity. Gordon Plummer's recommendation is to build up a broad vision on life where all details will find their natural place in the whole. Theosophy, which is based on the nature of things, can help you to build this broad vision, giving you the keys to sustainable solutions for everyday problems. We hope that studying Gordon Plummer's book will be a source of inspiration for you. Thank you for your attention.
Porque na vida a gente quer se conhecer.